Okay, want to just kind of go over feeding the filament for this machine. It can be very kind of tricky. I mean, there's three holes that you have to go get it through. You'll have this hole, which is not too bad to get it through, but then you have this next hole. This next hole can be somewhat tricky. So to try to resolve that, especially if you have and you just cut the filament or something, what I'll do is I'll take just one of these candle lighters. So this time I'll get a good point. There we go. I got a good solid point on it. Should follow much better. So even with me that I've changed this thing about 100 times already, I have some problems. So there you can see it's starting to come up. What you want to do is just take your finger a little bit just to keep it straight. So if you see it veering off to one side or to the back, just kind of straighten it out. Also what you want to do is, especially if you had like a filament break or something, or you pull it out and you notice something, one thing you want to do is just take a paper clip or a pin and just make sure that everything is cleaned out in there, because you don't want these wheels to be inhibited at all. So you pick it up, you kind of just look through there, make sure they're all clear of any debris or excess filament. Get it up in there, and then open this up. Now you can see that it's starting. Now you can see that it's going in there. Should be. I did have a breakage, and I'm just wondering now if it's plugging that hole. Which then in that case, what you would need to do, which is completely fine, I've done this many times too, is you just take and you take this end off, which if you want, you're just going through troubleshooting any areas that that might obstruct the actual path of the filament, especially if you have a failure. If you have a failure in where it broke, like mine did, I have a print that was running supposed to be for 2 days, and the filament broke about half day through, which does get kind of frustrating, but it does happen. What I'm going to do is just take this off, just kind of check, make sure. So sure enough, so this is where my issue is coming from now. So when I changed filaments, what happened was this filament here actually broke off as I was pulling it through. So when you're trying to reload it, obviously it's not going to reload because you got this filament still in here. And what you have to do then is pull it out, get it all out. For some reason, it's just not pulling out really easily, which is probably why it broke. So now that I resolved the issue there, and I know now that there's no other obstruction other than maybe at the nozzle, which we're going to test that first, because if we load this filament and it doesn't start coming through the nozzle, which we already heated to 195 degrees Celsius, then we know we have an issue at the nozzle. Typically it won't be a mechanical issue, it'll typically be an issue just like I showed you here, is that you had a little piece break off somewhere along the line. Now you can see that filament go right up into that hole, and you're going to just keep those wheels apart, and I'm going to just keep feeding this, feeding it. All right, so now I just found like the end. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to release the wheels. I'm going to go to my control panel, and it should be like set for 10 millimeters each time you hit feed, and it should really start to come out of there. Now it's starting to come out. So we fixed the feeding issue. We can go back to printing. There you go, you see it dripping there. There's definitely a problem because the filament that dropped out of there, I wish I could get a better picture of it, is actually burned, which means that that filament was in there for a really long time. So I'm going to just hit feed again, try to clean out that nozzle before I want pure white, because that's the color of my filament. I want pure white coming out of there before I start. Hope this helps.